This evening I'm interviewing Bill Bodine from Los Angeles, California. Bill is a musician, arranger, producer, and Grammy Award-winning composer who over the course of his career has composed the musical scores for over 300 commercials and television programs. He has also recorded, toured, and written with the likes of Glenn Frey from the Eagles, Cher, Olivia Newton-John, Van Morrison, Manhattan Transfer, and Sergio Mendes, just to name a few. Back in 1968, Bill, along with several other music students and my father, Tony Leonardi, founded what is now known as the Jazz Program at Youngstown State University. In 1994, Bill, Phil Wilson, and Ron DiTullo founded what is now known as the Tony Leonardi Memorial Scholarship Fund at YSU. Here is my interview with Bill Bodine. Today I'm speaking with Bill Bodine of Los Angeles, California, and he was one of the founding fathers of the Jazz Ensemble. Hi, Bill. How's it going?
It's going great. Thank you. Good to see you.
Good to see you too. So, to get things started, I want to ask you how you got into music, jazz especially, and how you met my father at YSU.
Well, I started playing trumpet when I was 10, and that was one of those deals where the music teacher comes to your public school in Youngstown and passes out instruments. You know, he has clarinets and I don't know what he is, saxophones maybe, and drums and brass. I wasn't there that day. I was sick. So what I got was what was left. All the clarinets were taken and then drums on. But I I ended up on trumpet, which is okay because my sister, who was a year older than me, 2 years older than me, uh, had been playing the cornet, which is my grandfather played the cornet, so it was like a big deal in my house. Oh, cornet, it's like the magic of all instruments. So she played it, and uh, I went and got the instrument. I came home and I said, Brenda, what do you do with this? And so she sat down with me and showed me how to play the thing. And it was one of those. It was pretty easy for me, and I had a decent sound. And I'll never forget. I probably still have the music book here somewhere. I went in for my first lesson. It was Mr. Hill was his name, and I played. Now I had been cheating. My sister taught me how to play, and he writes in my book the most natural trumpet player I've ever seen. So it was. So that's how I started playing by cheating, and I've carried that on my entire career. Um, but so I played trumpet in the high school bands and all that sort of thing. But when I got to high school, I was actually as soon as I was in high school, freshman, they put me in the high school band because I guess I was I guess I was pretty good by those standards. In that band, as I got to be 15 or 16, so whatever grade that was, maybe it's what ninth or 10th, right? Uh, Guy in the tuba section, Tony Galeotto, he said, "Hey Bill, you got to come out and hear my band." Now this is psychedelic rock was just starting to take off. I mean, it was Hendrix, and that's now we weren't partying. We were Tony was this Tony Galeotto was because he was playing bass in a band called Blue something or the Blue Knights. I forget what it was, but so we were playing. He said the Freak Out. Went, ooh, the Freak Out. So I went out on a Friday night, borrowed my mom's car, went out to the Freak Out, went in, and they had strobe lights and it was otherworldly. And I said, "Oh man, I got to go here," because the energy was just something else. So I started. I got a bass, and Tony taught me how to play. Tony Galeotto taught me how to play a few songs. In those days, the songs you had to know were "Midnight Hour." It had a specific pattern. "Knock on Wood" by Eddie Floyd had a specific pattern. And what else did I play? "Midnight Hour," "Knock on Wood," and there was another one that he taught me. So it was enough to do an audition. I did, long story, but I ended up taking an audition with a bad amplifier. The guys couldn't tell if I was good or bad, so I got the job. Uh, in that, so my interest in music continued right then. That was the end of high school. So at the end of high school, I was working in a band called the Citations. We were working at the these are references you'll never get. But if old people watch this from Youngstown, we were playing at the Rip Van Winkle Room down on Youngstown Fall Road. And that was like a happening place in the gazebo. So we started playing these cool places. So when it came time to go to college, although I auditioned at Ohio State and had an offer, a small scholarship offer. I stayed in town because I was making what I thought was big money, playing with the soul band, and I could live at home and no overhead. And it started at Youngstown State University, which was in the fall of 1968. So in the fall of 1968, I went up there and yeah, I auditioned, and I was not the best trumpet player. The new breed of cats coming in. There's a guy named Kirby Reese who lives. He might still live in Salem, but he's just a beautiful, beautiful player. Uh, and it was great, but it was all legit stuff and marching band stuff. And I did it. And we went to the classes and was learning the theory and stuff. But it was not. It wasn't lighting me up, And I had made a new friend, a guy named Phil Wilson, and we were talking. We had this similar laments, and said, "Man, this is great, but geez, what am I going to do with this John Philip Sousa background? When I get out of here?" I said, "Oh, great! It'd be great for all marching band opportunities. I'm going to corner the market." But it didn't make sense. I didn't feel it was relevant for for it was for timely employment. It wasn't preparing me for the real world. So we were complaining, beef, 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 beef. And we had to start up jazz band, like in 1968, that would do it. Because even then, jazz was on its way as decline, as far as popularity, and rock and soul, or well, soul and then rock were taking over. But we wanted to have something on the curriculum, or with it, well, it wasn't on the curriculum, something on that campus that was more contemporary than what we were doing. So we beefed about it over the winter, and around December or January of '69, Phil said, "Hey man, there's this guy that came to school. It wasn't a kid, it was a guy that came to school, and he was on Woody Herman's band. And maybe he can get us charts, and then we'll put a band together." Great, man. I don't know where he ran into him somewhere. Yeah, I'd never met the guy. The guy, right? So Phil, we'd see each other go, "Yeah, the guy says he can he can get charts. He doesn't seem like he's really into it, but he said, I was twisting his arm. He said that he'll get us some charts." It's great, great, all right. So finally, uh, we started rounding up guys that are interested, just asking guys that we knew were cool players. I was asking guys that were doing the nightclub thing. Billy Lawrence, who was part of the Insight. Billy Trageser is a very talented piano player and drummer. He was working Cherries Top of the Wall with I don't know if he was working with Tony yet, but they eventually became really fast friends because they were both so talented. So Phil gets charts, and these other guys that we were, asking, I'd have to see a program to remember who all was in it. Uh, but we had enough. We could have a rehearsal. So, okay, man, let's do this thing. So we figured out, where we can borrow a room, and we had a band rehearsal room, and it had to be after hours, because it wasn't legit. And we were in a school that there was some support for this. Pellegrini was there, and the band director was Bob. Oh God, all these names were in my head a few minutes ago. But just there's a few cool guys. Joe Parlink is always, is always cool. So there was a handful of faculty that were kind of cheering us on. Yeah, yeah, go do this. And then of course the other part of the faculty either wasn't aware or didn't care, or they were going to support that. So we get this rehearsal space, which is where the big concert band rehearsed, and it was like a 4 o'clock hit after everybody had classes. And we came in, and we passed out the parts and stuff. And I played lead because I think I was the only guy in music school at the time that could play that high, as the things were written. So I defaulted it, and also it was my idea with Phil. So it was me and Phil Wilson in the trumpet section, and I think Don Cayaz was in. But like I said, I can't remember. Billy Lawrence was in the tenor, brilliant, brilliant tenor player. Was in the sax section. Billy Trageser on drums. I'm not sure piano, and I think Tony Leonardi was playing bass. So Leonardi's charts, and so we didn't know what we're doing. It's a room full of guys, just without a monitor, nobody on a leash. So it was pandemonium. So finally, get the guys together. All right, I'm gonna do this tune right here. All right, let's go. And then we look at each other in a circle, like, who counts it off? We don't have a leader. It's like, who's sorry? Oh, the drummer. So Tragus is on the cancel. Boom, boom, 1, 2, and we bam, 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 and it was like was pretty. So it kind of wasn't happening. So let's start again. 1, 2, 1, 2, and you hear Tony Leonardi going, whoa, 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 and at that moment the jazz program started with Tony Leonardi as the head of it. It was that very second that it happened because nobody else knew what they were doing. We knew we were at point A and we wanted to get to point D, E, or F. We wanted to get down there. We had no idea how to get there. And Tony had just he was in the pros. Tony came on, it's like baseball. This guy had played in the bigs, man. So whatever he had to say, we all wanted to hear. But it was so funny, and Tony was just trying so hard to just be. I just want to now play bass, and then I'll go back to my world. I want to get my degree and go on with my life. Leave me sleep. So just couldn't do it. So we had about, we had a false start, and we had about 16 measures in, and boom, Tony was in. And that's where, I had said a little bit to him here and there, but this was my first experience with him. He said everybody there was completely open to what he had to say, and he was able to help get us together. And so that was the beginning, the actual beginning of the jazz program. That was from its inception with Phil Wilson and I to its early formation and initial execution. So that's it. That's a story of birth.
Wow. So how many people were in that initial group, would you say, and where did you practice?
Well, it was for big band, it was probably 5-4-4. So five woodwinds, four trumpets, four trombones. It's an 8-13 and three rhythm, so 16, 17.
Oh,
It was a full big band. It's what they
okay.
ran all the years. I mean, it's pretty traditional instrumentation. We add a guitar. As the program grew, you have to add a guitar because guitar was a popular instrument. And if they really had heavy enrollment, they would add another trumpet. So we'd instead of four, we'd have five. So that you just get more guys exposed to it. But it was built around that original 17-18 piece uh, big band instrumentation. And we
Okay.
would rehearse upstairs. It was a very old. This place doesn't exist anymore. Sorry, my phone's going off. Uh, that old. Was it? It wasn't Jones Hall. It was someplace. There was like a snack bar. This was a shack. I mean, once upon a time, might have been a nice house, and then after that, became ramshackled, and then it became ghetto, and that's when we were there. Is that it's somehow near the entrance there were vending machines, and maybe the original cafeteria was beneath it. We'd go up to the second floor, and it was a pretty open space. In I don't know how to describe how big the room was, but it wasn't massive. But it was a big open space, and that's where the concert band was, geez, it was big. Must have been 60, 70 pieces in that. So it's big enough to hold all that.
Okay.
Bob Fleming was the director and conductor for the wind ensemble. He's the name I couldn't remember earlier.
Okay. So do you know how long it was between the time that this idea became reality and then it became an actual program that YSU offered?
That was an interesting and I think slow evolution. I wasn't involved in the gears of that because I was just once we had it together at the school, we rehearsed from early in '69, and we gave a concert in spring of that year. That's when we blew the roof off of everything because some of the students knew all the cats that weren't in it's kind of weird because all the guys you couldn't invite or you didn't invite. We didn't have two bands and you felt bad that you didn't get all your friends on it because it was the happening thing on the campus for music students to play. Like I said, the reason the reason was it was the only contemporary expression at the time. Uh, at least by my definition of contemporary expression, it's the only thing that that participated or attempted to communicate with a contemporary audience. So it had that. Everybody wants to do that, as you know. Yeah, you've known a lot of artists in your life. Artists want to communicate with living people. We don't want to do historic work. I mean, I'm not saying that historic work doesn't have a place. It's just not what we are interested in. You know, we're interested in contemporary expression. So there are a lot of people that really, really wanted to be there. So there was word around about this band, and the students would come down and listen to us rehearse. And then when we gave this concert, I think that's what was at Jones Hall. That was at another building. Like, it's all so foggy. And frankly, I never knew the names of these places anyhow. But so we gave this concert. It was packed. I mean, like packed. It was so, like this is not enough air conditioning packed. It was like everybody's sweating. It was like one of those. And people went crazy. And you've been to the concerts when the band was really pumping, and people just went batshit. I mean, they just really were so appreciative and so encouraging. It was it was magic. I mean, it really felt special because it wasn't like uh, all through your musical career, even when you're a kid, you play your recital and yeah, good for you guys. Nobody threw up. So it's like every supporting it. But this was one of the first times that I experienced people just like, like it was a football game. That kind of cheering. It's like it was it took me back. It took me aback is what I should say, because it was like, oh man, come on, it's music. We do this every week. Come on. But yeah, they were really, really enthusiastic. And then after that, uh, then it got into around campus. It had a ton of energy behind it, just because of the response. And what I know now that I didn't know then was, colleges need to have enrollment. They need to put people in the seats and pay the tuition. In that way, it's a business. We were oblivious to this. I was oblivious to it till maybe just 10 years ago. But so word got around campus of the enthusiasm and how this, how much energy was in this. It was far and away the most exciting thing happening on that campus in the music school at that time. It was so it was electrifying. So word got to all of the faculty, and I'm sure that they approached Tony because it was clear the only guy with a brain. No, I say that kidding. I mean, guys like Tragus and there's some heavyweight musicians in that band. Uh, but Tony was the cat. I mean, Tony was the guy that spoke the language and could teach the language. He was the only guy on that campus qualified to teach that language. So, people saw that and went, oh man, and I think that we started to build uh, faculty support behind the YSU Jazz Ensemble then. I think that it was like somewhat just, oh, the kids are playing, God bless them, don't get hurt. Uh, and then after that concert, they were like, oh, okay, there's something here. And then I think, I wasn't privy to the conversations with Tony. He would talk to me about, he'd say, oh man, this is going on. This guy here, this guy is giving us shit, because he immediately figured out, man, we need, Tony immediately said, we need this, this, if we're going to do it next year. And also, as soon as the school started saying, yes, we want you to continue this, he realized, oh, Tony is a pretty smart cat. He said, okay, yeah, okay, but we need a place to play, and so Tony was dealing with all that stuff, and it was instantly headaches because there were warring factions in the faculty that, the legit faculty, that's all. They were totally dismissive of it because they didn't want. I don't know. I can't speak for them, but for some reason they weren't supportive. Whether they don't understand it, whether they don't like it, whether they saw it as infringing on their turf, I don't know what was going on there, but there was definitely a faction that was pushing against the school supporting or subsidizing in any way this endeavor. Uh, Meanwhile, I'm in the rock and roll world at this time. I'm playing more bass than the only place I'm playing trumpet is at college. I'm playing bass in bands. I have a soul band, and which was great. And then I went into another more of a rock band, and we played around. We were doing really well, but we traveled. We played a lot in West Virginia and Pennsylvania, and so I was missing a lot of school. And the second year I was there a lot. It'd be 69 was the first year. The 69, 70 year, I was there quite a bit. And Tony right away, I mean, dig this. I think it was that year, right? I think right away, Tony had us out at high schools and stuff because I mean, he gets it. And Jim Tressel, by the way, who's at YSU now, also does this. He recruits. He draws a circle, goes out and he recruits uh, these kids to come to school, and that's what Tony was doing. He was recruiting. I don't know if that was really his intent, or if his intent was just to give the band, put us on the road, give us a place to play, which give us incentive, reason to practice, and that's part of the progression. So I don't know really. Yeah, I never sat down and talked to him about what the motives were behind the moves, but I know we're playing these high schools and stuff, and people were giving us the same reaction. People were just going crazy over this stuff. So I remember playing. I was with the band then. That'd be my second year on the band. Then the third year, I think I was missing more because we were playing so much in my rock band, and really that's really where what my interests were. Uh, I wasn't that keen. Jazz was fun. I liked playing it on trumpet, but it wasn't my thing. I mean, I would listen to Freddie and some cool records, but I was driven by more of the soul and the rock music. I mean, that's what really I was aspiring to be part of. So I drifted, as our band did well. I let it take priority, and my commitment to YSU and to the jazz program uh, it became weaker. But the program was taken off. It was thanks, Bill. We'll be fine without you. Which is great. I mean, it's great. Uh, so I mean, it worked out. I did my thing. I came out to California and had a great life. So that the growth of that program, as we went out and played to other high schools, generated interest. Then they started stimulating the people in the administrative offices. If if if, if enrollment picks up, I mean, they're going to pay attention. And believe me, if you're driving enrollment, you have something to say. None of us, I wasn't, of course, I was drifting and I was interested in being a hippie and coming out to California and playing rock and roll music. But uh, I'll venture to say that Tony was not, could not possibly have been sophisticated enough to realize how powerful a position he was in those initial years. Eventually, he got it. He got it that they were driving enrollment and music department because he would ask for things and he'd get them. Yeah, that was the early excitement and the explosion of enthusiasm that we experienced with the jazz band.
Wow, thank you so much for sharing that. A lot of that I did not know, so it's very interesting. So for those who never met Tony or knew him, how would you describe him as a person, as an instructor, a professor, and what things did you learn from him that have impacted you now and your career as it is today or throughout the years?
Mm-hmm. I never really knew Tony as a professor. He was a guy, and this guy came to school on Woody's band, and we became friends. I mean, we were different. Yeah, I was playing bass in a rock band, and I had long hair, and and I was going that direction, and you know we could make each other laugh. That's for sure. And I had I've been a part of putting the first program together, so I had some sort of I don't know what you'd call that with him, cachet or whatever. Uh, but we hung mostly as friends, so I can't speak to how he was as professor. Uh, as a guy, though, let me start. My impression of him as a guy was just he was not. I don't think he was much older than me. Do you remember what year he was born?
39.
39. I
Yes.
didn't realize he was that old, so he was much older. I would have kidded him about that had I known. Uh, but he was. I mean, he was really was a musical generation away because he was coming off of, and he was a jazz cat, and I was wanting to be, as this isn't this only time, or I'll go this way. He was a jazz cat, and I wanted to be the R&B rock cat, and then after that, I don't know what came after that. So we didn't share a genre, but we were friends. He was this cat, and I just had immense respect for him because he was. I mean, you'd have to be deaf, dumb, and blind to not realize how great of a player he was. I mean, this guy. Well, there you go. There's what did I learn from Tony? This guy, when he played, there was just when you first start playing, and especially when you're green, you don't have your stuff together. Man, why is that so good? I mean, you're just going, wow, why does that feel so good? Why does that sound so good? And I remember being analytical, listening to play bass because I was, very much committed to the bass at the time. And I watch his hand position and listen to the sound he'd get, and where his hands were placed relative to the pickups, blah blah blah, all the technical stuff. I'd listen to him, and he played. He didn't like have magic notes, but how he got to them. So there was all that. Again, as a musician, just being jaw dropped by how good this guy was, how it felt. When I was playing trumpet, he was playing bass on it in the big band. Although we argued, he would often tell me I was dragging, and I would often tell him he was wrong, uh, that he was rushing. But he would just swung so hard. It's just one of those cats that when you hear him play, and it's still the same now. There's what's his name, McBride, Christian McBride. You hear these guys play, and Tony was one of those guys that it just swung so hard. You said, man, why? Why? How does he do that? I took a lesson with him once, right before I came to California, towards my end of time at YSU. And I had a lesson, and he didn't say anything, but you could tell he was thinking, man, you have no idea what you're doing. It's just, he was like, he didn't, I didn't get anything. He just like, we hung on, he goes, eh. Yeah, yeah, I was thinking of that today. Just like, well. Just looking at me play. But he had, he came to school and he brought with him this, what I described as this, upstate New York, Syracuse, Rochester thing, which was these guys played. I mean, the list of guys that came out of there was Sal Estico and the Mangione brothers, and there's just a long, long list of great players that came. And from the stories that Tony would tell, it was part of the education was by you learn because of an intolerance for people who wouldn't learn. It's like if you couldn't play, they would someone come up to you and say, "Why don't you get off the stage now?" It's like that. So yeah, it was there's no warm fuzzy stuff going on there. And Tony brought that we're working with him with the big gun. It wasn't warm. Oh, would it be nice if the trumpets were a little bit louder? It was not that. He definitely grabbed it and let you know exactly what should be happening there. If it wasn't happening there the second time, he would absolutely want to know why. It's like, uh, and that was a lesson. That was a lesson that because that wasn't he wasn't demeaning. He wasn't. You might have felt bad because, but he wasn't calling you a turd. He was saying the music that was being produced was substandard. That so his priority. He only got aggravated and agitated and excited. What motivated him, all the emotions were about the music. It was about the music. If you had a bad attitude and you were like, goofing off, well, you were damaging the music. So he had no tolerance for you. He had no patience for it. Now I saw that, and I have that in me. Uh, I knew that because I was, working in an 8-piece band before I was in the rock band. I was in a soul band, and I was doing all the arranging for them because nobody knew how to get, nobody knew how to take it down from a record. Anyhow, so, but I found myself, I had that uh, lack of tolerance for the people that just weren't trying. So I saw it in Tony, and and I saw how he utilized that to make the music better. Not to make him feel better about himself. Wasn't to make him the most powerful guy in the room. It wasn't egocentrically based. It was about making the music better. And that was a lesson, I think, that many of us got was, I mean, you hear guys kind of go, oh, Tony got angry. But Tony didn't get angry because you were a jerk. Tony got angry because you were affecting the music. And that his passion and his protectiveness for the music and the genre. That was a lesson. I mean, that's what you wanted to take away, man. Could I be this dedicated to music? Could I? And I like to think I got some of that from him. I think about him a lot. Of course, I think about him all the time. His just how passionate he was about making good making this music good. So that was one of my major takeaways. So did I answer the question, or did I drift back off again?
Yes, no, you did. Absolutely.
Okay, I'm
Thank
old.
you.
There's no telling where this will end up.
So, what are you up to now, or share some of the things that you've done in your career that you're most proud of, and um, where has music taken you over the years?
Well, right now I'm retired technically. Uh, my career as I came to California, yeah, I'm proud. I'm proud of my career because I came to town with it was $82, $84. Uh, and I came with my buddy Joe Pizzullo, who's a great singer. We didn't know we had friends in Orange County we had been in the band with, but they were going to academia, so they were going to college down in Fullerton. So they let us crash down there, but we didn't know anybody in the music business. We didn't know anybody out here at all, not one person. So I would go and audition this place called Musicians Contact Service. Now this is all pre-internet, so the way you contacted other people, you go to this service, you pay them a membership fee, and then they would allow you to look at these listings of people looking for a bass player. So I'd go through those and get named and go and do endless auditions around town. It was brutal. Uh, and so, and I had some menial job trying to, pay the rent and buy food. I ended up getting a job winning an audition. So classic auditions where they called, it said Grammy Award winning producer uh, seeking to put band together. So, oh, yeah, yeah. So I went out, and there was an addition, and you go up the hills in Malibu to this guy's house, and you go around to this garage, double car garage, and walk in, and the room is lined with bass players sitting down with their axes and their little amps to audition in front of each other. It was brutal, but I got that gig. So I got that gig, and on that gig was Ralph Humphrey, who's world famous drummer. He was on Don Alice's band when well, it was before. Yeah, he was on Don's band before I left town. So that was 71, 72, all that big band stuff. And Ralph is just a legend out here. He's done just a ton of everything. He's a great cat and just one of those guys who play all the odd tempos and stuff, all the odd meters. Uh, so he was part of the production staff. Turns out this producer had produced a Don Alice record. So Ralph drugged me around to Maxine Weldon's club and introduced me to Jay Graydon and what's his name, Dave McDaniels and I might have met Greg Matheson there. Anyhow, so Ralph drug me around, started to meet players, and then that helped me get going. So from a guy that I knew nothing, suddenly I was able to do this and that. I ended up, somebody called me, and I get confused in the order of this, but somebody called me up to play on Leo's. Oh, I was playing a lot of song demos. So this one songwriter was working with Richard Perry, who was a big time producer, called me to play on this record for a guy named Leo Sayer. And Leo Sayer had this big, you make me feel like dancing. It was this big song in disco days. So I played on that record, and on the record, I met a drummer named Rick Schlosser, who was a great cat, and he had worked with Van Morrison. So Rick and I did, he would call me up for this and that, and then one day he called me and said, "Hey, Van's looking for a bass player. You want to go?" So I went down to the Studio Instruments rentals and sat in with Van Morrison and Dave Lindley, his guitar player. They were auditioning drummers. So all these great drummers would come through, Carlos Vega, uh, all these guys come in, and they play for, well, we finally get a groove going. Neither one of us, neither me or the drummer, knew Van's material, which is stupid. I should have, anyhow. So we would, by the time we finally got a groove, Van would go like this. He'd go, which in R&B talk means bring it down, boom, right? It's just known. Well, we're busy trying to figure out what the hell are we playing. Van goes like this. We don't see it. And Van stops playing. Goes, "Thank you very much."
Oh.
And so these great drummers would be asked, "Thank you very much," and they'd leave. So I'm thinking, wow, that's pretty crazy. So 2 days of that, of Van doing work, the drummer missing it. I was starting to catch it on the second day. And so it's pretty clear that Van's a little Lee. And at the time, he was really having some stability issues, shall we say. Uh, so I was on a break, and this SIR is a bunch of rehearsal stages, and with big acts everywhere. I remember. Well, that's another story. So I went out to get a drink of water, and a guy came over. I forget which guy. This would have been wasn't it might have been Greg Matheson, and he said, "Hey, Bill, what are you doing?" I said, I think I'm going out with Van. And I said, "But I'm not sure. He looked a little dicey." He said, "Well, uh, I'm at the end of the hall with Olivia Newton-John, and we start in Vegas on Thursday, and they just fired the bass player. This this is on a Tuesday. So would you want to do it?" I said, "What's it pay?" And he told me, and I look in the room, and Van's sitting there, kind of talking to himself. I'm going, yeah, I'll take it. So I went and took this game with Olivia Newton-John. I auditioned. And they said, "Okay." So I went on the road with her, and then that led to, that's how these things go. That led to, I went to Melissa Manchester after that, and then uh, forget what had. Then I was playing with this girl named Shelby Flint in town. All these great jazz, and she was phenomenal. And on that gig, some of the guys were playing with Joan Armatrading, who's a brilliant artist. So I went to Europe and Australia with Joan. Played with all these great players. We played a lot. A lot of this stuff is with Armatrading is on YouTube, all the live stuff. Uh, so I played with her, and then I came back to town. Then I was in the house band of Big Potato, and then I did the Star Search, which was a great gig. I was in the house band of Star Search for 10 years, and I did the Gong Show when they brought it back the second time. So yeah, I've had a bunch of really cool gigs, and then I started writing. I've been working with a lot of great writers. I was with a band called the Funky Kings early on. We made a record on Arista. Some really good writers in there, including Jack Tempchin, who wrote "Peaceful Easy Feeling" and "Already Gone" and "Slow Dance," and big records for the Eagles. So I wrote some stuff with Jack, and Glenn Fry recorded it, and I wrote some stuff with Janice Siegel for Manhattan Transfer, and I wrote I wrote the original theme for Judge Judy.
Oh, wow.
Which I just decided 2 days ago I'm going to turn into a jazz tune, because it's just like this riff in six on the C minor. So I wrote some stuff. Had some real luck on this. I'm a decent player, but you gotta be lucky. I've gotta, to get called to do like the Leo Sayer thing, to have Rick Schlosser on it, who knew Van, who knew, to have that link, those links, those dominoes fall. You have to be lucky enough to get the first one. And so I've been blessed in that regard. I've been very lucky. So I've had this pretty decent career. I did a lot of recording and a fair amount of writing. I was writing commercials for a long time. When I was writing the Judge Judy theme, that was after I wrote a bunch of stuff for Fox, for other things, and a bunch of Honda commercials. But well, I just wrote a bunch of stuff. Uh, and then how did it end? At one point, I said, "Okay, I'm done." Yeah, towards the end of the Honda thing, I was tired, and I said, "Okay, that was enough." And I decided to retire. And I retired in I was 62, so that's 8 years ago. That's 2012, and that was boring. So I put together a nonprofit with a guy. The guy that I went and lived with when I first moved out here, I was in a band with him, Danny Marshall. He was at by this time, by 2012, he was a professor at Penn State. He had gotten his degrees and all that. So he was retiring, and we were always really good friends. We said, okay, let's put the nonprofit together. We decided we put the nonprofit together to help kids, and we wanted to have music. So we got put Creative Bridge together, and what we did, we had a great program for using percussion instruments to communicate with kids with autism or
Oh,
intellectual disabilities. And what we could do is communicate numbers and colors. Not that I was a curriculum that was developed by a friend of mine out here, a drummer named Eddie Tidori. And that's a wonderful story. Someday I'll tell you that. And since then, right around the same time, I picked up my trumpet again because I figured I wasn't, yeah, I knew I wasn't good enough. I hadn't gone far enough on that instrument. So I've been studying jazz and trumpet with a guy named Howie Shear out here and just going after it. And it's just because I want, when you know guys like Ralph Lalama and Sean Jones and this friend of ours we always talk about, Bill Loy, uh, when you hear cats like that play, I can't help but to I want to go to there. You know what I mean? It's like,
right.
man, I want to go. I know I'll never get as far down the path as they are, but I want to get farther down it on this instrument. So that's what I've been doing. I've been shedding trumpet, and people are very generous out here. Before the pandemic, I was playing as many days a week as I wanted to play, rehearsal bands, and there was gigs follow off of that. Playing with great players. Matter of fact, and then I'll stop rambling. A guy that's become a good friend of mine. We played on a band for oh boy, Charles, great alto player, tenor player from Buddy Rich's band. Later in the conversation will come. But on that band, I sat next to. I'm going to lose all my names now. Oh my God, Winston Bird's on it. He's a good player, and John was this John that I'm trying to think of. For some reason, I've lost his name. Was the lead player on Woody's band when they played at YSU. Tony
Oh,
had him come to YSU, and I'm gonna look. I'm gonna get his last name now because he's such a good player. Uh, he was on the band playing lead with Charlie Davis and oh come on. Harold Danko was playing keyboards. John LaBarbera was playing drums, and Alfonso Johnson is a great bass player. Was playing bass. Oh, John Thomas. Yeah, that's John. John Thomas. So anyway, I get the player. Sit next to John Thomas. He's a monster. Bill Churchville, who was on Tower of Power, another just he was like the downbeat jazz of the year kid when he was younger. Just monstrous players. I get to work with sit next to these guys, and everybody's very forgiving. I bring them treats and money. So, but that's what I do now. Yeah. So now I play music for fun because I love doing it. And lately I've been working with you on the Leonardi Legacy, and working with Eric Dregney and Jim. How do I say Jim's last name?
Wilpula.
Wilpla. And we're trying to organize and the YSU Jazz alumni. Want to get them organized as a unit, hear about what they care about, what they want to do, try to, just try to, uh, just try to give them a place to hook back up, talk to each other about jazz. And, we're talking about, let's talk about about Leonardi Legacy, because that's going to be really something.
Right, right. Well, yeah, I mean, I I in talking to Jim and Eric, I guess ironically we both didn't realize that we had the same idea around the same time. And so when I posted something about wanting to have a reunion, in my mind, I was just going to get as many people together as I could to pay tribute to my dad and enable them to get to hang out with each other and play because the concert you put on 2 years ago was such a hit and people still rave about it. It brought that whole community back together again after all of these years, and that feeling was just incredible. And I think a lot of people really want that again. So there's so many reasons, and also, now that you're on board and Eric and Jim are on board and Sherry and Mike, I think with everyone's help, we'll be able to get this thing going and it's turning into something that I couldn't even have imagined before. I think there's about 50 people on board now that just want to play. And then, all the people that have offered to help. And ultimately, I'd like to have some of the proceeds go back to pancreatic cancer research, of course, since that's what my father passed away from. And that was something that he felt very strongly about. You know, trying to fight that. So I think all the way around, it's going to be a real success. I think, I came up with the 2022 partially because of the pandemic. We need some time to get this together, and hopefully by then things will have gone back to the way they were. But also, my father had a Reunion 82 album with a lot of the alumni back in that time. And so I thought, well, 40 years later, let's do it again. Let's get everybody together. And so I think it'll be really great. And I'm so glad to have you a part of it. So,
Yeah, I can't help it. I can't help but want to be a part of it. Yeah, what we're doing with YSU Jazz alumni, the only difference is that most of us, I mean, people that I know, had Tony as an instructor, but there are years of people that had the YSU Jazz experience that didn't have Tony. So rather than trying to keep them from feeling excluded, we're reaching out as YSU Jazz alumni. Also, calling it YSU Jazz alumni allows us to utilize the assets of YSU and their promotion departments and their email list and they're very excited to have us because they want to share content with what we have. So hopefully, your Leonardi legacy and alumni, YSU Jazz alumni, will it may be confusing. I don't know if we might have to just roll it into Leonardi legacy, but we'll see. But we're going to try to work together, pick up as much support as we can from YSU, and try to get as many jazz alumni involved as possible.
do you have any stories about my father that you'd like to share that, have stayed with you through the years or that are really funny that you look back on and laugh when you think about
No, 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 no. Yeah, okay, I've got one that I'm going to tell you, and no one knows this. Okay, so and it's at my expense. So just so you understand what I'm doing to my sense of self here. Tony said, "Okay, Bill, Dizzy's playing in Cleveland. You want to drive? Come on. We'll go up there. We'll go listen to Dizzy. It's gonna be great." I'm thinking, yeah, okay, I'm on. So this is Dizzy Gillespie. I mean, I understand how important Dizzy Gillespie is now. I didn't quite have a deep appreciation of how iconic, where he fit in, in the jazz food chain. Dizzy, of course, was the head of the beast, and everything else was all right. I didn't get that. I didn't understand it. So we go to this concert in Cleveland, and we're listening. And yeah, it's great. I mean, but it was out, and like I had said earlier that like I wasn't really into the jazz thing. So after a while, you know, so I guess that. And Tony says, "Hey, we'll go back. We'll go back. I'll introduce you to Dizzy." So I think that was the subtext was really, we'll go back. I'll use that as an excuse, and I can talk to Dizzy. But anyhow, I just, yeah, I'll go back and see Dizzy. So we go back. We're waiting in line to shake hands. Now all the jazz, just warning, the jazz guy's going to throw up when I say this, and they're never going to forgive me for this. I'll always be humiliated for confessing this to you on this, Paula. But for you, I'll do it. So we're in line, waiting for Dizzy, and I don't know what to say to Dizzy Gillespie. No, yeah, I don't know what to. So we get up there, and Tony, Diz, hey, how are you? I mean, I think he said, yeah, I'm Tony. I met you when I was on Woody's band, or when I was in New York. They had a little bit of, because, hey, I want you to meet this is our lead trumpet player. He told him about the band in Youngstown. I want you to meet his name's Bill Bodine. And so I'm thinking, I got to say something nice, Dizzy. Dizzy, man, pleasure to meet you. You sound great, man. You remind me of Freddie Hubbard. Tony turns ashen, and he just goes. You hear him. He starts. Oh no! Oh no, man! And he starts. I you swear I stabbed him in the side with a knife. Oh no, man! No, man! No, man! Dizzy, he's so Dizzy. I'm sorry, man. This cat's no, man. Dizzy is the guy. All these other guys learn from. Now, meanwhile, I'm all red because I realize I just stepped in the dog shit.
Oh no.
So that was my if I not only did I humiliate myself, but I managed to humiliate Tony as well. So I'll never forget the sound as it, man, you sound like, oh no, man. Oh, he gave it to me on the way home. Oh, did he give it to me? Man,
Oh
you don't know.
no.
Oh. That's one of my Tony stories.
Did it take him a while to get over that, or was he pretty cool afterward?
Well, yeah. I mean, we both realized that I was the idiot. Didn't hurt him.
Oh my gosh.
He just couldn't
That's a
believe
good one.
it was part of his head. There's things about it. He'd look at me and you could just hear his head. He's not gonna make it. This guy's not gonna be okay.
Oh man.
But we stayed in touch. After I was out here and I had, done pretty well and had built a studio here in my home and. Then Tony got funding to build the studio at YSU. So he reached out. And he said, "Hey, look, you know about this stuff I don't." So I would fly in and we'd meet and talk about uh, the studio design and of course the things we covered and Tony knew and Tony asked for. They didn't give him, so they ended up with a room that had huge problems, recording problems. But yeah, we kept in touch. We kept in touch. The one year that we had, I have a picture on the wall. What year is that we had? Was that '94 where we had the alumni come in and had that concert?
Yes, I
Yeah.
believe so. Yes.
And so I'm trying to think. Oh, what do I take? It's like going to the party. Should I bring a cake or something? And so I'm going to this reunion with all these great players, and not only that, great arrangers. By this time, David Lalama is already killing it as an arranger, and I think is his name Jerry Ashone? I might not be saying it wrong. I'm sorry, Jerry. But it also had been writing for I think the Navy Jazz. So he got serious players, serious charts. I'm going, man. Of course, I hadn't touched my trumpet at that time in at least 30 years. So there's no way I was going to pick that up and try to play in the section because since I had come and gone, they had some real players come in. Camiff and uh, was it Dennis Reynolds? Is that it? There's just a bunch of cats that came through there that could really do it. So I'm thinking, whoa, what am I going to do? And I ended up emceeing it with. I think that was when I ended up. No, I emceed the one after Tony passed. This one I came and that's when I brought the like you won the golf tournament check to
Oh
start
yeah.
the jazz fund that has ended up being the Leonardi jazz fund. That is still, they just sent me a letter the other day telling me what students they've helped. So,
Oh, wonderful.
they help, four or five or six students a year. They give them some tuition help. It helps keep them in the game, helps keep them playing, and keeps them uh, in music. So it's turned into a good thing.
That's fantastic. Well, you started something great there, and it's continued to help students for what, 26 years now?
I can't do the math that fast.
Yeah.
Yes, all because I'm a mediocre arranger. If I was a better arranger, you'd have had a chart.
Well, I see you have some gold records back there. What are those from?
Oh boy. Um, uh, that I think. Oh, that behind me is Glenn Fry. No Fun Allowed. I have a song on that. I wrote a song on his No Fun Allowed record, and that might be the Leo Sayer record that I played on because it went triple platinum. And that, and then over there, I played bass on. Oh, you'll love this. I played bass for Peter Criss, the drummer for Kiss. You know,
Oh,
yeah, that band. Um, he did a solo record, and I got called to play bass on it, and that was great. That was a lot of fun. He's a nice cat. I mean, we just played just very straight head rock and roll record. But the story I tell about that, and tell me when we've gone overtime because I know you'd like to keep these under 3 hours. Uh, Let me know when we hit 2 minutes 59. I'll tell you a quick story doing the Peter Criss record. Peter Criss on the road with Kiss, Harleys, crazy. They're so successful. The thing before I played a note, it had sold platinum because in those days they were doing this thing where the management company would go around and somehow get the record stores to pre-order the record before it was even made, and then the pre-orders would total platinum, and so they could. So, like I said, it was platinum before we played a note. In
oh
case you
wow.
thought there was any connection at all between number of sales and quality of music, let's eradicate that premise right now. But it was nice. When we walk in, he's got a stage set up, so he's got the gongs, and he's got to have 8 crashes and splashes, cymbals, and he's got probably 4 rack toms and 2 or 3 floor toms, one snare, 2 bass drums. Wow, man, that's a lot of drums. So we're doing tracking on rock and roll stuff. Boom, boom, bapa, 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 boom. You play the hi hat, you play the snare, you do a fill. I mean, that's all this is. So the next day we come in, and there's only 4 cymbals and 3 rack mounts and 2 floor toms. So progressively, as the week went on, I'd come in every day. There'd be less drums. Finally, got it down to snare, 1 rack mount or 2 rack mounts, 1 floor tom. But he was a really really nice guy from New York. Just a complete down to earth kid that knew how fortunate he was. And just a nice guy. But anyhow, that was a story off of one of the gold records that I had for there. And without looking at the other ones, I can't tell you what they are. But my wife has a bunch around here too. They get in the way. Uh, she's a studio singer, so she got a lot of stuff from that. And my son even has a platinum something or other. Uh, they're showing off.
Wow.
But when he was little, he sang. He could sing. He's all he could sing. He, he from my wife, uh, and they always want kids that can sing. So right away he was working. She got phone calls when he was right after he was born. Is he ready to sing yet? No, he can't speak yet. He hasn't got teeth. So yeah, but he's a talented musician. So he's doing his thing too. So yeah, we have a musical household, and I never forget to thank my lucky stars on the fact I was able to maintain a life in music and make a living and make house payments and do all that stuff. Again, no small part. I mean, you working with guys like Tony in that environment at the right time when you're at that your early late teens, early 20s when you're just a sponge. You're taking in the information on how to live life, how to do stuff, how do you make music, how do you make good music? To have the good fortune of running into someone, Tony, that was so talented and so driven to help to make people. It always felt like it's dragging you into playing good music. To have run into that was you know that's really fortunate. So uh, I'll always be thankful.
Oh, well, thank you so much for sharing all of this today. I really appreciate your time and stories, and I wish you all the best in what you continue to do now. Even though you're retired, I know you're still playing. Hopefully, COVID will pass sooner rather than later, and you can get back out there and do
Well, I
some
like,
more.
one thing about COVID, and I described this to my friends out here. I said, this is like in Youngstown in the winter, when I was in college, and I use Ralph Lalama example, that it would start snowing and nobody would be hanging out. It disappear. So Ralph and David Lalama and John Lecce all lived up in a house. Occasionally I'd go up and they're playing and practicing all the time. So you wouldn't see these guys in the winter. And then the spring or like COVID ends and they come out and they're like monstrously better. So
Oh,
that's my goal is during COVID shedding like mad so that when it's over I'll come out and guys go, oh, you know, um,
right.
that's how yeah it's a great opportunity to practice and thank God I still like to practice so I'm lucky to have that. And thank you for you're your father's daughter. You are. You know what I mean? It's like he was a doer. He didn't think this was hard or impossible. He just went and did, and that's what you're doing. You want to put this together, and you're doing it. And I'm happy and proud to be part of it. And whatever I can do to move it forward, let me know, and I'll do it.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much.